I'm the ag agent for the Lewis County Cooperative Extension Service. We're getting into time, Macy, where spring is very close. If it's not already here, our flowers are in bloom. It's time to start thinking about gardening. And a good gardening thing to get into that's real easy for beginners or experts, at that matter, is herb gardening.
Yes, one of the most important things before you get started on your herb garden is what type of herbs do you want? So not necessarily maybe even the taste, but you have to consider storage because you don't want to have all these herbs and not know what to do with them. And you also have to consider even the height of them as well. So is your garden ready for herbs? Where can you put them that would be best suited? So we do have a great publication. It's called Culinary Herbs, and it goes over how to harvest and dry and some different types of recipes that you can use. But also when you get to the back of the publication, that in my opinion is probably the most important part, it goes over the hardiness. Some of them are annuals, some are perennials, and then the height that they will get along with should I use seed? Should I have some type of division that I can divide them up in the fall? And has some other great tips as well.
Well, that's great information, Macy. But let's back up just a second because you were throwing out some big terms there that maybe a lot of our growers don't understand or don't realize what they mean. An annual is simply a plant that completes its whole growing season in 1 year. Mm-hmm. A good example of that would be basil. That's an excellent one for herbs. Or perennial is one that will complete its cycle in multiple years. And a good example of that is lavender that we can utilize. It's real pretty. It's several different uses for lavender.
Yeah, lavender is a good one. It can be a little harder to grow, so typically I don't suggest it for beginners. But that is a great point about annuals and perennials. Whenever you're looking also into planting, you need to consider the seed packet itself. With the seed packet, you need to consider the days to germination. You can look at the height, the planting depth, and the spacing of the plant itself. So you don't want to have the plants too close together and have some disease issues later. Also, it goes over if you would like to start them indoors, you can start them about 6 to 8 weeks earlier. And with that, you can have herbs earlier so you can transplant them outdoors. Or, we're going to talk a little bit about containers and having them indoors a little bit.
Mm-hmm. But the key with the seed packets and the choosing of the herbs, kind of do your homework a little bit. If you want to do an experiment to see what your family may love in herbs, or if you already know what herbs that you like, go definitely make sure you get those for your garden.
So some other things to consider before you get started is what type of things you need to start seeds indoors. So you can start things outdoors pretty easy. Mm-hmm. But if you'd like to get an earlier start, what are some things we need, Philip?
Okay, for container gardening indoors, we can use pots that we can buy anywhere. The main thing we really need to look for is good drainage. That will help prevent some of the diseases that we can get and have healthier plants too. Not a huge fan of using clay pots, especially indoors. They dry out really, really quickly. Other than that, if you're great at doing it, it may be an option for you, but especially for the beginners, use some of the plastic pots that we can get. You can get the seed trays. They're great for putting underneath grow lights and stuff like that. If you use old pots or old containers that you got laying around, nobody wants to waste anything. Mm-hmm. Make sure you do a great job of cleaning them. A good bleach solution, 10% bleach solution for about 10 minutes that you can submerge it will kill a lot of, well, it won't kill a lot, it'll kill them all to help prevent that. Make sure you do it outside. Mm-hmm. Don't mix ammonia with your bleach. Just bleach, the 10% bleach solution outside, and make sure you got some old clothes on because if you get it on there, it will stain your clothes. So we don't want to waste anybody's good clothes.
That's right. So you can start things indoors. You don't necessarily have to have a grow light. Is that right, Philip?
Yeah, you don't have to have a grow light. That is an option for you. If you don't have a grow light or opt out of a grow light, make sure that you pick a window that is south facing or southwest facing. That's going to give us the most direct sunlight during the springtime. So we would at least want to make sure we have at least 4 hours of direct sunlight in that window, and that would be a good choice for it. Don't want to pick the north-facing window because that's going to be the window that's not going to get any direct sunlight or very little direct sunlight.
Of course, you can always plant these outdoors, a lot of the different seeds, and they'll still grow. But you can even have your garden indoors. You don't necessarily have to have, transplants growing and then take them outside. You can have a little mini garden just about any time of year, right, Philip?
Yeah, any time of the year. That's a great thing about herbs. If you don't have a lot of space, like if you need it for tomatoes, corn, or beans, if you're in an apartment or in a small subdivision, you don't have a lot of space to work with, herb gardens are great. Some of them have odors that can linger through the house and make your house smell really great, such as peppermint or some different mints like that. You will notice the herbs do have a nice odor to them. A lot of them do, and that's some of the benefits of them.
If we'd like to have our container garden indoors, what plants, what type of herbs do better for as gardening indoors, in small, or maybe even in containers even?
Okay, some great choices would be chives, parsley, any of the mints, oregano, especially if you like to cook Italian stuff. Oregano's real good into that. Or rosemary is another good option.
Okay, so before you all really get into your herb gardening and consider, okay, maybe I want to start my plants indoors, we do have a great calendar, and it's a calendar for gardening. You can go through here and you can write what is going on in your garden. Maybe you can write down if you had started your transplants, and you can put down the date that you started so you know when to transplant them. We have these at the extension office, and you can stop by. It's not just for herbs. It goes over other types of plants like tomatoes, broccoli, everything that you can think of. This is an all-year calendar that's provided by the University of Kentucky. So that is a first come, first serve, and we have some markers so you can write on this, and then you can just wipe it away and use it again next year. But before we end, we want to talk a little bit more about disease and insects. So no matter what, you're always going to have some issues. What are some tips we can use, Philip, or things we can do to prevent diseases?
That's some good questions there, Macy. Good drainage, like we talked about earlier. Wet soils and unhealthy plants, they're just like humans. If you're unhealthy, you're more susceptible to insect and diseases. So if we've got maybe a little fertilization, well-drained soils, and you can tell real quickly if you're watering too much because it'll stay wet, your plants don't look healthy, and you can also wave your hand around here, and if you see little insects, odds are those are fungus gnats, and they're going to be due to too much water. To get rid of them, the simple way is to pull back on the water a little bit. We want to get them just a little bit thirsty before we add some more water to them.
Also, we have to consider insects. So if you have any type of garden, one thing you always need to look out for and keep an eye on is disease, but also insects. You need to go out and monitor. So some of these can actually live on the underside of the leaf, and you don't even know it. For example, if you have aphids, they're really small insects that can be a light green color, and they can actually live on the underside of the leaf. And that can be a big problem. A lot of people think, hey, I'm going to put some 7 dust on here and it's going to take care of the issue. And for that case, it will not take care of the issue because the insect is living on the underside of the leaf. What are some other insects that we have problems with, Philip?
Oh, we have problems with an insect called thrips. White flies can be another one. We mentioned the fungus gnats.
So those are a few insects, but overall, 7 does not kill everything. And we see that a lot with homeowners and people, trying to grow gardens is, hey, I'm going to put 7 on and it's going to kill it. You don't want to use the insecticides as a prevention. You really need to go out, monitor, see what's going on, and then see what insecticide best fits. Especially, these herbs you're going to eat right off of the leaves themselves.
And not all insects are bad. We
Yes.
need to make sure that we are identifying the insects properly and we know where we're going, because if we have certain insects such as ladybugs, we'll go after the aphids. in the larval stage especially, but the larval stage looks totally different than what we're used to seeing as a traditional ladybug. So we need to make sure we're not killing the good ones and watching out for the bad ones. Aphids, like you mentioned, can be a problem, and they can be a bad problem real quickly if we don't stay on top of them.
And if you are having problems with insects, or maybe you need help identifying them, the University of Kentucky, you can stop by the extension office. You can give us a call during these times and send us a picture. We can help you identify the insect. And if you have problems with diseases, we do have a plant lab that can help with disease diagnostic and help you identify what's going on and what the next step is. So our last little bit of our video is going to be over storage. So if you have questions about how to store some of your herbs to get the most out of them, again, it goes back to our publication, The Culinary Herbs, and it goes over some great tips on how to preserve them. And you can have herbs all year long.
That's great, and we can use them during the wintertime, and we can, like you said, dry them, freeze them, whatever the case may be. We can have fresh herbs all year long, especially during the wintertime when we're getting cabin fever and we want our homegrown stuff. If we take the time and do a good job during the summer, we can have that all year long.
All right, now we're going to get into our giveaways. You can stop at our extension office, Mason or Lewis County, and outside of our office we have a tote. In the tote we will have the calendars that we talked about. We will have the herb publication that we talked about as well, and we have herb seeds. So we have a bag of seeds, and it has the information will be with it. And within that we have different types of herbs that you can plant, but we ask you to use only one per family. Those are first come, first serve, and they'll be outside of our extension office. Some other giveaways that we have going on, if you will comment on our video, you can say, I like to grow herbs. And I want to know what type of herbs you like to grow. For example, I like to grow basil, or I like to grow cilantro. So if you comment within the next week, then we will enter you in to potentially win a prize. At the end of the week, we are going to be drawing that prize, so you'll have a week to submit your information there. And some things that we're going to give away include this is really neat, but is a vertical growing garden. You can hang this outside, maybe on a door or outside on a building, and you can insert your soil in there.
Mm-hmm. Make sure you anchor that very well, because there will be a lot of weight with the soil, the plants,
Yes.
and especially when you put water on them.
Yeah. So you can have you can put your soil down in here, and you can actually grow herbs, all kinds of herbs throughout here.
Another giveaway is going to be the peat pot refillable ones.